What do we do when we are struggling so hard that we feel forced to surrender? How do we surrender? Can we just give it all up to God? Is that even possible? And if so, what does that even mean? We're looking at all of that and more in this week's episode of The Manic Serenity. Hey guys, it's Benjamin Zamish, the author of Creating Freedom and the founder of Move, Learn, Create. I'm so thankful to have you here with me. Let's get right into it. We're looking at how do you give something up to God? I'm sure you have many times encountered a struggle where it felt like it was absolutely impossible to overcome it, where you decide that you just have to surrender it, just leave it alone, move away, move past it, just give it up. And perhaps you found yourself in a state of such disempowerment, such disillusionment, that you have no choice really but just to give it up to God. I've heard this expression so often, and I know that we often hear about surrender, about acknowledging our human frailty and having the wisdom to, as the saying goes, give things over to God. And I really battled with this my whole life, especially when I was very young. I just couldn't accept the image of creation that had been taught to me, and it placed me into a really deep, really profound, brutally painful spiritual struggle that almost took my life. I barely made it out of that battle. And I just knew that I couldn't solve my problems on my own, and yet I was incapable of surrender because I did not have a clear enough vision, I guess, of what it was that I was supposedly surrendering to. And the truth is that I can now see, the truth is that nobody really ever won that battle. The showdown between me and the God of my childhood, the belief systems and threats of eternal damnation, all of the fears and so many assumptions that had taken such deep root in my system, I never really overcame those in the way that I thought that I would have to. What happened actually is that as I kept striving and as I continued to burn through the veils of my perception with the concentrated force of my focus, as my attention burned away all of those projections the way that the light of the sun through a magnifying glass burns away a paper obstacle. In that same way, as my attention remained focused and my imagined opponents dissolved into the space of that light, into the heat and fire of that truth, I dissolved as well. And once you dissolve, well, there's really nothing left to be afraid of, is there? There's no fears left if you're gone. So it's so hard to approach that. It's so hard to talk about what that means and to really look at this reality in a way that is honest. It's so hard to see this process through until the end because the world gives us so many ways to distract ourselves. And it's so hard for that reason and for so many more. It's just so hard to keep the attention focused through the mind, like the sunlight through the magnifying glass, because the mind is always so willing and so eager to create any number of hallucinations, any number of conclusions, so many ways to seek out comfort and to seek out solace and to try to convince us to rest on what ultimately is a distraction from the ultimate. So, and when you do that, when you rest your head on those temporary fixes, the solace, the comfort that we long for so deeply, but that doesn't yield to us a permanent solution, it skews the lens. It skews the lens of the magnifying glass, and we don't maintain ourselves in the way necessary to really allow that piercing light and energy of our focus to continue to yield to us the perception necessary to encounter a truth that is greater than what we've just accepted in our minds. But when we do that, when we do stick through that process and we find the right tools that allow us to align ourselves and experience new dimensions of life, our imagined existential enemies, those things of which we are fearful, they begin to dissolve. And the light, our light, our focus will begin to reflect off of the new, the new truth that is beginning to set up residence within us, beginning to become our own living reality. And in that intensity of that fire and the light of that truth, it begins to burn us away as well. It begins to dissolve you as well. And that disillusion into truth is the real meaning of what surrender is meant to be. It's not an idea that you put up a white flag in your head because you just don't have what it takes to battle this one out in your psychological drama. That's not what this is about. This is about dissolving into truth. So when you do that and you allow yourself to dissolve and you surrender in that way that is real, that is existential, that is actually a phenomenon of this life, then what emerges is so far beyond what we could ever have imagined. It's so far beyond any of the wildest stories that we've ever told ourselves about what may be lying in store for us, if we get that reward that we hope for so badly. And now all of a sudden, where we used to see the confusion, the endless confusion that we abhorred, that we hated for so long, we now just see and absolutely delight in an endless mystery. Just an incredible, miraculous mystery that is life. And where we used to perceive an endless struggle, we now see only an endless opportunity for growth, an endless chance to progress, to continue to expand. Where we used to see, the foreign installations of our fears and whatever beliefs and gods that we say are ours, we are now able to see a truth, to experience a truth that is far too phenomenal to preach from any pulpit. And after spending a lifetime struggling with our own inability to surrender, to truly surrender, we suddenly realize that there is no opponent. There is no opponent. There is only the flow of a life that is far too powerful for us to ever have imagined that we could escape from its currents, to ever imagine that we could have become separate from that thing that we are seeking. And so at that point, we stand in the same external situation, the same place out here that we once called as bondage. And now, with our feet planted on that very same holy ground, we lift our hands up and proclaim our freedom on the same place that we stood in our own imagination of our bondage, of our struggle for this freedom that we just didn't understand was already ours. Because now we see what we truly are. We see what life truly is. I promise you will see what you really are, how magnificent you are right now in this moment, right now in this moment. How magnificent you truly are. And once you just see that where you wanted to go was a place that was always here, that was always within you, that the eternity that we longed for so badly was and still is that very moment, this very moment in which the longing, in which you felt the longing, that it's already here. And then you will see and you will know that To say that you're going to give something up to God, absolutely anything, whatever it is, to say that you're going to give it up to God is like feeling heat from a fire and saying that you're giving that warmth to the flames. So thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you for joining me on this part of the journey. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Please share this with anyone who you think will be or could be impacted by this in a positive way. And most importantly, go into the description for this video and sign up for the free resources that are available for you. The free courses, the free ebook. These are tactical steps and methods to begin to bring true transformation, to affect real change in a consistent way in your life that will be able to yield to you the experience of all these things that already belong to you. So please get involved in that process, and I will see you next week. Thank you.